Hey, discerning listeners, Jorge and Anfisa, let's watch.
Like, I'm not trying to lie to you.
Exactly. If it's not one thing, it's another, it's another, it's another.
I'm not trying to lie to you, though.
It just really make me worry about our future.
Why?
Because you abandoned your child. And
What?
I grew up basically without a father, and I know how hard it is.
All right, to catch you up, so she learned from someone that used to date him a while back that he has a child with this other woman, and he is denying it, saying it's not my child. They've talked about this before, but the woman reached out again to Anfisa. I understand Anfisa is assuming that he's lying because he often is lying, so it's one of the reasons why you don't want to lie about things. He's saying it's not his child, but who knows, right? This would be exactly one of those things that he would lie about. Now, I think the major reason why he lies, I think he lies for other reasons as well, but I think the major reason why he lies is because he has an impulsive, pathological need to stay out of trouble. And he will lie desperately and be distorted about the motivation or the pros and cons about lying. And then once he lies, he sticks with it because he knows he'll get in more trouble if he admits that he's lying. And so but he might also, I remember floating this idea earlier on that he might be somewhere on the psychopathy spectrum. I, of course, can't know that at all, but I can say that for some people who are, lying is very easy. It can become compulsive to them. It's a way to get away with things. They don't feel bad when they lie. A major reason why all of us don't lie is because we don't want to hurt other people's feelings, and we're afraid of being caught in a lie. And so a lot of us will not lie because we are predicting how it will affect someone else. If you're on the psychopathic spectrum, you have varying degrees of care about that. Higher on the spectrum, you don't care. Midway on the spectrum, you kind of care, but not as much as other people. Meaning that when you're about to lie, you don't really feel that fear or that care or that compassion for someone else's feelings. You're just like, well, I want to lie, so I'm going to lie right now. So I don't know if he is in that camp. Of course, I have no idea. There were some other signs earlier on. If I was to take a guess, based on his demeanor and his overall behavior, because he shows a lot of care for her, a lot of compassion for her. It's hard to know if it's genuine or if it's instrumental or fake or something, but usually psychopaths don't present like him. People slightly on the spectrum, they can. I don't know, but if I was to take a guess, I would say that he might be potentially conceptualized as someone who's like, 10, 20% on the spectrum or something. But anyway, so they're having a conversation about this. But I want to be clear, I'm not calling him a psychopath. That isn't even what I was hinting at, and I'm not diagnosing. I could never diagnose. That conceptualization, I would only apply to someone that I had adequate time to assess and potentially talk to collateral contacts like their family and other sorts of individuals. I've diagnosed people with psychopathy and antisocial personality, but the way that I operate, well, there's two different versions. There's the version where I'm asked to provide an evaluation, and so I might have anywhere from 2 to 10 hours to test someone and to interview everyone necessary, maybe more hours, depending, but that's that scenario. And even then, I'm not super confident because people can fake, people can lie, people can present differently. My typical way of assessing and conceptualizing and diagnosing is with clients, and with those individuals I'll work with for weeks, months, years, and over time, I become more and more confident in a particular diagnosis and conceptualization. If it's something like depression, I can assess that really quickly. But when it comes to a personality issue and why someone would lie all the time, those things, I like to have a lot of time to explore that with willing individuals.
But I never abandoned nobody. I dated this girl in high school, and a few months after we broke up, she tells me she's pregnant. But I'm not the father, so I never really bothered to look into it, and I move on with my life.
Wait, what? That's his explanation? That's his proof that he isn't the father of that child? Now, it's possible he's not the father, but given that story, every indication is that he is the father, and every indication is that he has no way of disproving that he is the father, right?
But I didn't abandon anybody.
Look,
It's like,
if you had sex without a condom, then it may be your kid.
okay, when did I separate ways with her? And when did she have her kid?
Well, I don't know. You told me when.
Probably like 11 months.
Okay, so that would be pretty good data if it is 11 months, but he says probably like 11 months. Okay. Well, so if he has firm data on that, like the actual date of birth of the child and the actual date of the last time that they had sex, but so it's a tick in his column if he has some data along those lines, but of course you can't trust him with that. And given his behavior, he would have every reason to try to convince himself of that, or Anfisa.
I don't believe George's explanation. It seems like George can never remember anything, but all of a sudden he remembered the exact dates when he slept with somebody 10 years ago.
Maybe she sees that we're happy. She's trying to find an opportunity to try to ruin our relationship.
I mean, I would assume that if the mother of the child was serious, that she would know that there are ways of testing this sort of thing. And if she's willing to make these accusations, I don't know. Who knows? We have no idea who this person is, but we do know who he is.
It says, why don't you tell George to come and give me some money and stop spending it on making you uglier?
I made one comment after I got irritated.
Yeah,
This is not the conversation I wanted to have.
No, check this out.
No, you want to be rude to me?
I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude.
I never once asked you for freaking nothing.
All right, well, catch you up. They're calling the woman in question, and they're just getting into an argument. The woman in question, at least the way that it's being edited, she doesn't seem super reasonable. It doesn't mean that she's lying, but she was claiming that she didn't say anything rude to Anfisa, and she did, clearly. So they're just arguing with each other.
Relax.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, you are. No, you're rude. And I haven't done nothing to you. I haven't asked you for anything this whole time. So I'm not going to put up with you being freaking rude to me. Because I don't deserve that. Because I told you I want you to grow up and live your life. And that you were too young. And I'm young too. So don't act like I did anything wrong to you, because I didn't. This is real.
Yeah, I mean, she sounds like she's going through something. I don't know her circumstances. I would imagine that there's some rationality there that I'm not aware of. But I didn't show the whole conversation, but the way that the woman is talking right now, it doesn't seem to be super related to the topic at hand. Again, it doesn't mean that she's not telling the truth about him being the father.
It's a real human being. She's almost 10 years old. And you don't even know her name. You don't deserve to know anything about her.
I mean, I don't know. The way that conversation went, I tend to think that he would be lying, and especially his evidence that he's not the father. I mean, he did say 11 months, but do we really believe him on that? And how would he know that exactly? So, I don't know. It's just hard to know what's happening.
I just want to tell you that, like, I'm willing to take a DNA test.
George, how many times did I tell you to go get one? Come on, keep it real. How many times? How many times did I tell you to go get a DNA test?
Well, that's interesting. So in the first hand, I'm like, oh, well, he's willing to get a DNA test. That seems like he's not only willing to find out, but sounds like he might not be lying. But then the woman says, how many times have I asked you to do that? And then I think if that's true, and he's not really denying that, then yikes. That really points in the direction that he is the father, right? I don't know. It doesn't really, well, it does. It matters to them. It matters to the child's life. It matters to him. It matters to the mother. It matters to Anfisa. But it doesn't necessarily matter to my commentary. It just, if he is lying, it's just another reason. And this is a reason why you don't lie, because when you're actually telling the truth, then no one believes you. Like, he could say anything at this point, and no one would believe him, including Anfisa, right? So she's saying that she's asked him to do a lot, and he's refused. So he might be saying it right now just to lie for the cameras and Anfisa. And then when the time comes to actually submit to a DNA test, he denies it. You know, yikes.
How many? How many times? And you said, go ahead and find me. I said, well, I don't even know where.
Yeah, it's not my child, though.
You didn't feel like she was your...
Yikes. So his defense about not ever taking a DNA test is, hey, it's not my child though. Like, well, I don't think a DNA test is that hard to submit. Yikes. So I think up to this point, I was like, well, who knows? He could be telling the truth. But the more as it starts to kind of look like he might actually be lying, I mean, yikes. That he would just completely deny being the father of the child and truly abandon the child, not only just in terms of monetary issues, but also emotionally. I mean, yeesh, that is rough.
Why did you meet up with me at the mall and buy her stuff that one time? Why did you always contact me randomly before and after Anfisa saying how is she doing?
I haven't talked to you in how many years?
Okay, I don't know. Hard to know. But I'm gonna, if I was to put money on something, I would say that he is the father.
I have given some like gifts and stuff like that. I would joke around like, hey, you know, it's my daughter or whatever, you know, but just as like, we were just friends. Like I was just being a nice guy, not a father.
Golly. I don't know. No one can tell if someone's lying, but his delivery is so bad. Now, if he is telling you the truth, he has a way of telling the truth that really makes you think he's lying. Let's rewatch this. It's kind of comical, isn't it? I don't know. I can't tell if he's lying or not, but the way that he delivers this, it's almost like he knows how ridiculous it sounds.
I have given some like gifts.
Yeah. As he's telling the truth, I'm guessing what he's doing is just like, well, I have to say some of the truth because I did do that, but how do I tell some of the truth and make it sound believable and still deny that it's not my child and that I'm a good guy? So the gears are turning in his head as he's trying to calculate how to fit all that in. It is one of the markers of lying, is people will take a lot more time. It'll be a lot more laborious. When people are telling the truth, they don't have to work that hard at it because they're just reporting the truth. The memories and the thoughts are coming together and they just spit it out. When you're lying, the memories and thoughts come together and you have various different things that you're trying to do, and you're thinking about what to say and what the consequences are of that and what other lies you've said. Like, there's a lot of processing that's going on and things kind of grind to a halt.
I have given some like gifts and stuff like that. I would joke around like, hey, you know, it's my daughter or whatever, you know, but just as like, we were just friends. Like I was just being a nice guy, not a father.
I mean, it's possible that is true. It's not impossible. It's possible that he has done that. I could see a world in which they were friends, or he was trying to appease her or something. You know, it's possible. I wouldn't put my money on it, but I'm not going to say it's automatically just obviously a lie. But you know, the gears are turning in his head. All right. The red screen of death is being displayed on the TV show. Production followed up with Jorge and Anfisa about the DNA test, but were unable to reach them. Wait, what? Anfisa finally notified producers that Jorge had been arrested in Mojave County, Arizona. Arrested. Regarding the child? What's happening? Oh, Jorge is facing a felony charge for transportation of marijuana for sale. Right. Well, wasn't he doing it legally? So he must not have been doing it legally. Or was it a charge from a previous incident prior to legalization? But anyway, yikes. If he's like an actual dealer of illegal substances, that could explain some things. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but that would explain his issues with cash and his issues with shadiness, and would be another tick in the column of somewhere on the antisocial spectrum. Not that everyone who sells marijuana is on the antisocial spectrum, but what I'll say about psychopaths and people who are antisocial, some people consider them to be the same, some people different. It just depends on your definition. Some people consider psychopathy to be a subset, and then there's sociopathy, which sometimes is considered the same and sometimes not. It's funny. I'll see debates online between people that clearly have no idea what they're talking about. And one person is saying, sociopaths are completely different from psychopaths. You're an idiot. Read a book. And then the other person is like, no, they're not. They're the same. And I'm like, these are constructs that are defined by various different authors. There's no central office or governing body of these words. Even words like depression, major depression, are somewhat debatable. Usually a construct like that is pretty well established, but particularly when we come to personality disorders, which is what I'm talking about right now, these are hotly contested in my field, even among people who are respected. There's always there's a couple climate scientists out of thousands that will deny climate change. So it's not that kind of thing. Like, there's legit movements against the whole idea of personality disorders, and a lot of people that are pro. The thing is, it just depends on how we define it. It depends on what we're using it for. And so, anyway, for people that are psychopaths, antisocial personality people, they often will exhibit a lot of criminal behavior. They will lie often. They will manipulate others. They don't care about other people's feelings. They often will get in trouble with the law because they don't care about conventions. They don't care about the law. Think about for yourself out there that when someone asks you to break a rule, like, I don't know, because I'm not, what do I say here? I've noticed I don't care as much about conventions and rules that other people do. Like, for example, we'll be in a restaurant. This was years ago, but it just pops in my mind. I was in a restaurant with my wife and friends, and the service was really bad. And, I don't hold it over people's heads. It's usually because the management doesn't hire enough people, or someone called in sick and they're all kind of swamped or whatever. But at a certain point, we didn't have utensils, or it was some kind of fundamental thing where it wasn't like I just, Garçon, I want my drink. It was something fundamental to our eating experience. We were just waiting, and how you do that, you're just standing at your table, or sitting at your table, just, trying to get eye contact with someone who works. And I'm not even joking. We were doing that for like 45 minutes. And finally I just went, I'm just going to go get it. So I get up, and people are like, no, not everyone, but some people are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I just walked back into that little station that you'll see for the wait staff, and I saw some utensils, forks and napkins and stuff. And so I wasn't angry. I just they obviously need help. I know where it is. I'm not going to do anything bad. And I got it and brought it back to the table. I don't think any of the wait staff noticed. If they did, they didn't care. It probably appreciated on a certain level. And then we were off and running. So I'm okay with stuff like that. Other people are not. Even if I looked to someone and said, the wait staff probably won't care, and the fork is right there. You need a fork. Just stand up and go get. Some people are mortified to do something that is against the rules. And, it's a rule. You're not supposed to go back into those stations. But for me, I'm like, well, normally, yeah, I wouldn't do that, but now it's justified. 45 minutes. Come on. They haven't even come by here to ask us anything, let alone something like that. And we can't leave because our food has arrived or something. I can't remember exactly, because normally I would just walk out because just to save them all the trouble. Stacy and actually, we just did that at another restaurant. They seem like a lovely group of people, or actually it was just one guy. Anyway, point is sometimes I'm like, it's probably better for them if we're not here, because obviously things are breaking down. So for y'all out there who are more in that direction, who wouldn't go get the fork, for you, it would be mortifying to break a rule. If someone said, look, easy money, you can sell weed across state lines, it's impossible to get caught. Even if you were very reassured, you would still say, I can't do it. I'll have too much anxiety. And I'm definitely in that camp. I'm not saying I have an easy time breaking it. If someone, for example, asked me to, there was a crime that was, victimless crime that I could surely get away with, there's just no way that I would do it. I've never been like that before. But there are some rules, like I'll be at a stoplight and I don't see a single car, and I'm just sitting there going, and the light for whatever reason isn't changing. I just screw it. I just go through, because So I'm a little bit in that direction, but, not further. And the further you go down that direction, the more likely you're going to have a lot of behaviors in that camp, a lot of lying, a lot of criminal behavior that eventually catches up to you. Because presumably a lot of people are committing various crimes, but it's the people typically who are doing a lot of it that get caught. Now, I don't know. Maybe George did something completely innocent, but maybe it was a minor thing. Maybe he just had a couple joints. That happens sometimes. People will just have some recreational marijuana and get caught, which is just ridiculous. It's like, come on. I've been advocating for the legalization of marijuana since the early 90s, I think. Seattle had Hempfest, and it was always around trying to advocate for that. And I never thought it would happen, but then it did. 7 years ago-ish in Washington State. Anyway, so let's wait and see what happened. Wait, is he incarcerated? Wow. Interesting. I don't think we've ever seen, or is this a fake out? Let's find out.
Hey guys, this is George, and I'm currently incarcerated in the Department of Corrections at the Arizona State Complex Phoenix unit. I was charged with transportation of marijuana.
All right, so there are some headlines from 2018, so that puts it in perspective too. Anyway, so TLC, 90 Fiancé star George Nava, I don't think I knew his last name, Nava, arrested for possession of 293 pounds. Oh my God, that is a lot of marijuana. Arrested in possession of it. Interesting. 2.5 years in prison. Wow.
I've been in here for a year and 8 months.
Wow. So did they skip a season or something? Because this Journeys thing is a summary of all these different seasons. So is this how they... Because almost 2 years he's been incarcerated. So was this a season that happened later or an update or something? Interesting. Wow.
In the prison, I work as yard crew maintenance, but as of lately, because of the COVID-19, we've been having to do a lot of sanitizing work. We clean cells and sanitize areas that have a lot of traffic, and we do this on a daily basis. There definitely is panic because us as prisoners, we really don't have much access but other than the news and the media that report all these crazy things going on in the world. It's almost like watching a movie.
All right, so he's saying that they're on the phone right now during the lockdown initially, so it looks like this is maybe mid-2020. And I do remember that there were reports of people who were incarcerated who were being treated pretty badly, pretty poorly, and weren't given proper care or help or ventilation. He's talking about how they're all sanitizing everything, and I do remember that. In the beginning, it was the assumption was that if you cleaned everything, surfaces and your hands and whatnot, that would significantly cut back on the spread of the virus, because we just didn't have the data and we didn't have the science yet. It was a good assumption, but it turned out, and don't quote me on this, I'm not a pathologist, but from my understanding, pretty early on in the run of COVID-19, we learned that it could be spread through, droplets in the air, right? What do they say? Through inhalation, or what do they say? Transmitted through breathing. There's a word for it. I'm sure I'm being stupid right now. I can't remember. And so if you're in a prison, that's got to be pretty rough, because I'm just going to take a guess and say they're not extremely well ventilated, but I don't know. Maybe they are. Either way, this is interesting.
The last time I saw Anfisa was the day before I got incarcerated. The night before I came to prison, we had an argument. Things were just not going well. I thought that I was going to try to make things work, and they didn't, and that was it. Probably about 2 months after I was in prison, she basically told me that she couldn't be with me anymore, and telling me that she wished that I got 12 years in prison.
All right, so we're learning that after he was incarcerated, that she broke up with him and said that she wished that he had received 12 years in prison instead of 2.5 years. Now, we don't know her side of the story, but yeah, their relationship seemed fairly fragile prior to him going in, so this doesn't really surprise me, I guess. But I don't know. I could have seen Anfisa sticking it out, but she didn't want to, and it makes sense. I'm sure a lot of her support system were encouraging her to do that. I mean, you know, their relationship was pretty rocky to begin with, and then this happens, and maybe she even thinks like, wow, he was even lying about that. He didn't tell me that he was dealing in hundreds of pounds of illegal substances. And so I don't want to be with someone like that. You know, that makes sense. We don't know her position, but, you know, they broke up. Interesting.
But that's the past, and I overcame that. It definitely made me stronger. Now that I've gone past that point, I've got to see all of the negatives that I was going through in my life, and I'm better off alone. You know, I basically was willing to do anything for love, even give up my freedom. And now that I kind of went through it, it's kind of showed me what her true colors were.
Interesting. I don't know if this is what he's saying, but it's possible what he's saying is that he is claiming that he was dealing in illegal substances that was very risky to him, legally speaking, because he was trying to make money so that he could buy her things, which, you know, I could see happening, but of course she never asked him, I presume, to do any of those things. And I'm guessing she would say, particularly now, I mean, later on in their relationship and as the seasons went on, she seemed to have a much more palatable attitude about the whole money thing. Like it didn't get brought up. It was mainly her security and the relationship with him that was of concern, which made a lot more sense. So he's, I think, narrativizing it as this is all her fault or my fault for trying to impress her with money. You know, that's interesting. And then he says that he learned her true colors, which you could absolutely see it that way. I'm guessing a lot of people would see it as like, well, Anfisa doesn't need to stick around. But, you know, just think about for yourself that you become incarcerated. You're selling a substance that for a lot of jurisdictions is completely legal. It doesn't make you some sort of dirtbag or a terrible person. It's certainly not immoral to sell marijuana. You could sell marijuana to kids, and that would be immoral, right? You're selling marijuana to consenting adults. In my view, that's not a moral issue. It's a legal issue. I don't even think it's an ethical issue. Now, it's immoral to put your family at risk and to lie to your wife about that. It's immoral to put your own life at risk and that sort of thing, but that's because the laws are stupid, you know? Now, I'm not saying that anyone should be able to sell 300 pounds of marijuana without having to go through the proper channels, and there are certainly some potential issues with that. But anyway, so if you went to prison for a couple years, that's not that long given the possibility of what he could have received, and then your wife just leaves you, that would be pretty crappy. That would feel pretty bad. And you could think of yourself as like, oh, true colors, I see. She didn't really love me. She didn't stick by me. Yeah, I could see that. It's hard to know exactly all the ins and outs. We haven't heard from Anfisa yet. Maybe we will.
The last time that I spoke to Anfisa, she told me if I knew already that she was with somebody else, and I told her that I did know, and that as soon as I got released from prison, I was going to file for divorce. At least now I'm stronger mentally, I'm stronger emotionally. I mean, I've gone through a lot of changes here in prison. I've changed a lot physically since I came to prison, and I started working on my health and been able to lose about 128 pounds and still counting. I'm able to think clearer.
Interesting. So he's reporting that he lost 128 pounds. He can think clearer. He's spending more time on his health. It's interesting. And that is presumably one of the purposes, if not the main, at least stated purpose of prison, is to rehabilitate and help people to get back on track. That doesn't usually happen, but it sounds like it might be helping. I mean, God knows what he's going to do after he's released, but he's reporting that maybe there's a silver lining there. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.